get started. Let me see, I'm going to share my screen. All right, welcome everyone to the 5th Judicial District Virtual Court Access Program site training. This will be a refresher for most of you, but also an opportunity to kind of update what the procedures and practice are, and an opportunity for you to ask any questions and get answers, okay? So as a reminder, this was a program that was developed by the 5th Judicial District as part of their Access to Justice program. And it's really a partnership with that program and your agencies and other community-based organizations to try to help community members who are litigants in court connect to court virtually. So the general flow at this point is that a litigant calls the court law librarian who completes an intake and schedules an appointment. And then that law librarian sends the information to the chief clerk of the court and to the VCAP site saying that that matter has been scheduled. The clerk for the court then sends the Teams meeting over to the Gmail account for the virtual court access site, which should be auto-forwarded to your site contact. And if you're not receiving those, then we might have the wrong email address for that site contact, so we should update those. We will circulate the full list of site contact emails, so you can even test out if you're receiving it. The site contact then ensures someone will be present on site for the day, and we're going to go through this later, but we're really hoping that the day before the appearance, the site can turn on the computer so that it can run the Windows updates it needs to run, especially if your computer's been sitting dormant for a month or longer, it's really going to need to run those updates. And then in the day of court, the site contact should hopefully be there at least 20 minutes before the court appearance, and hopefully the litigant will arrive 15 minutes before the court, so that then we can get them set up, do COVID screening and everything, and help them through their court appearance. So I just wanted to include a screenshot of what the scheduling process looks like. This is an example of what the email looks like. When an appearance has been scheduled, they'll send out the schedule for the week coming ahead. It'll say the date, the litigant's name, the kind of case it is. It's usually a family matter. It's usually custody or visitation or things like that. And then the location where that litigant will be going. Okay, so Adol, do you want to jump in and talk about the expectations, or do you want me to keep going?
Either or. I can touch on, like, I can elaborate maybe on the COVID protocols.
Sure. Okay, I'll go through these and then hand it on over. So what we ask of our sites is that they check the email daily to see if new appointments have been scheduled, and ensure that a trained staff or volunteer is present on site and present throughout. They don't have to stay in the room, but maybe you can let the litigant know, I'm just down the hall. If you have any questions, come to me. Conduct a COVID screening and follow proper COVID protocols. We have a sample COVID screening, but if your site uses its own COVID screenings, then by all means, use your own site's COVID screening. Help connect to court and help with scanning, uploading, or downloading any documents that need to be uploaded or downloaded. Colby will be going through that. Remain present in the building throughout the entire court process. Sometimes the appearance is only 15 minutes, but you might have to wait for court to log in for an hour. Even if you were scheduled at 10:30, they might not show up till 11:30. So just making sure that you are available to answer questions. Of course, maintain the confidentiality of the litigant and help navigate any problems that might arise. When we talk about confidentiality, we just want to remind people that the nature of the court appearances that are happening is highly sensitive. As I said, most of these court appearances are family matters, so it involves really confidential and really personal information about a person's family disputes, their child custody, their visitation, maybe even orders of protection and things like that. So we ask that people keep confidential any personal identifying information that's obtained during the time of helping someone. So this even includes the fact that the person used this service. So if you see them out in the community, don't go about being like, oh, hey, how's that family matter going? How's that custody case going? Keep it confidential. If they bring it up, that's fine, but you don't want to be the person bringing that up first. You know, you want to keep confidential the subject matter, like what they was discussed that you heard, and even what referrals were made. You will be sharing this information back to court because they will ask for some information, as Adal will go over in a few moments, but really it's important to keep this confidential, what you're hearing. All right, Adal.
So as Sally touched on, most sites, oh, I probably introduced myself. Hi, I'm Adol. I work at VLP and I've been at the sites up until so recently. So with the sites, many of your sites currently have a COVID protocol, but generally speaking, we do have the self-assessment. I would say that the biggest part within the self-assessment as the mandate changes is that to just maintain a level of distance and also making sure that you have a mask on. Because some sites that I've witnessed have had a protocol, but might not necessarily require a mask due to the change of like mandates. But personally, I would say a mask is at least something that's provided as well. We have PPE equipment as well, and we also have generally like a common understanding with the sites of what the protocols look like. The biggest one I would say is that if a litigant comes in and they demonstrate any like a fever or any visible signs, please also make note of that just for yourself. That sometimes, again, we know with COVID, for example, there are experiences that we have in terms of like having a cold and might slightly confuse that with COVID as well. So just be cautious and have a very general understanding that your safety is a priority. So if you don't feel comfortable, make note of that as well. Oh, lastly, we don't require the oh, I forgot the name of it, but basically that you've gotten your vaccination. But if someone does show that to you, please accept it. If they don't, you don't have to ask for it.
Great. So for language access, the court should let you know if a client's language is, their primary language is not English. If the site has the ability to provide interpretation in the setting of welcoming someone, either in person or telephonically, that's wonderful. If not, the court does provide an interpreter to talk with the client, with the judge and the other litigant, as long as the litigant has requested an interpreter, and that's really critical. Not everybody realizes that they need to request an interpreter ahead of time. So if you get a litigant there and you know that they need help with a language and it's not noted, then you might even want to send a quick email to the chambers, and we provide the chambers email. And the chambers is just a word for the office of the judge. So you might want to send a quick email to the judge's office, their chambers, and let them know that an interpreter will be needed. All right. Adal, do you want to do this one?
Yes, so this has been one of the major hiccups that happens when you have a litigant. Most of the time we get knocked out of the internet service. So outside of arriving on time, completing the screening and making sure that it is the correct litigant or the correct court matter, it's really important that you check the connection. And this is to also reiterate that this isn't an opportunity to use your own hotspot, or this isn't an opportunity to use an unstable or unreliable internet connection. Granted, the whole point is to offer access, but we want to make sure that it's also an essence of privacy as well. So most sites will have internet connection, but take some time to ensure that the connection is strong, and that if there are any hiccups within the connection, please make sure to at least dial in. Because at the end of the day, we do want to make sure that there's communication about what's happening. And we have the option, each site has a phone that's been provided as well.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Colby Ward from Interfaith Works, who has been an amazing partner in this effort and who was the one that set up all of the workstations. So take it away, Colby.
Hi, thank you, Sally. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you again, if I did get to meet you. So thank you for joining us. And yeah, I get to go over just how to use the workstations, getting connected to court. Sally, if you would go to, thank you. So the joining of a virtual court Teams call, I've laid out in 5 steps how you would do that, and then there's a video there. So on the desktop, if you select Microsoft Edge, yeah, if you want to play the video. Perfect. So yeah, going up there, selecting Microsoft Edge. It'll take a moment to load, but it should bring you to the site's Gmail. If it doesn't, then it will auto log in just by going to gmail.com. And then it should be the unopened invite, the most recent one up on the top. And once you open it, you'll have a click here to join the meeting. That may auto launch Teams, or it may have a dialog box like this one asking you to confirm that you want to allow it to open. And that is the steps for how to join the virtual call. And then the next step, once it loads Teams for you, is to confirm the name and camera audio settings. So there's a text box, and if you put the litigant's name there, make sure you adjust the camera so that the litigant is in view. And then below the text box, there are 3 toggle options for camera, background effects, and microphone. So you want to make sure that microphone and video are on, or purple in this case. And then you're ready to click Join Now. And that's pretty much it to get you in. Then the litigant is able to begin. If they have a need to send files back to court, then you would first start on the printer scanner and just initiate a scan of the device, or I'm sorry, of the document. And then so if we start that video over, sorry.
Yeah,
there we go. So you should have a scans folder there on the desktop. Once you've scanned that, it will appear there. And additionally, on the desktop, you will have a send document link. Clicking that opens just a new compose in the site's Gmail. And when that loads, you'll have the little paperclip icon where you can click to attach that file. And that's pretty much, it for attaching the file. The paperclip is down at the bottom near the send button, but we can go to the next one. And then lastly, ending the call and signing off. To end the call, move the cursor, move the mouse around until that red button appears. Clicking it will end the call. And then down in the bottom left-hand corner, clicking the Microsoft logo, and then the power icon and the site logo. And then you have sign out, and that will complete the virtual litigation experience. Next, we have a window and driver update. So this is updates that the computer needs either to continue talking with its components or to perform security patches. the Windows Update section is set to automatically provide those Windows updates. However, in order for it to automatically download those, the system has to be powered on. Some updates, depending on how big they are, can take a longer time. Some of them only take a few minutes, but especially if the site has had the system turned off for maybe a month or several weeks, then it might have a number of updates to install. And it may or may not require a reboot of the system in order to finish performing those updates. So powering on the computer, like Sally had mentioned the day before or several hours before the litigation experience, or just setting a time like once a month to turn on the machine on your off time, and just leave it and let it perform those updates. It will inform you if it needs to shut down. It'll have a little icon, like a red dot down in the bottom right hand corner, and it will say a restart is required. For driver updates are released less frequently, so the check for them can occur less often. I usually here at Interfaith, I check our driver updates about once every 3 months. And but if you get in the habit of turning on the computer for those Windows updates the day before or once a month, then you might just get in the habit of also running that driver's update check. But how would you do that? So all of the computers are Dell computers. And so that means that they have Dell Support Assist or a Dell Support Assistant on them. And you would just launch Dell Support and it will have a driver update section where it will run a scan and inform you of any driver updates that are needed. If for some reason you don't find Dell Support on that computer, then you can download it at dell.com/support/assist.
Great, thank you so much, Colby. And I just wanted to include this information about the Windows updates, because if you haven't turned on the computer for a while and you just turn it on for the meeting with the litigant, the computer is going to start running those automatic updates at the same time as you are in court with the client or with the litigant. And it is going to make the computer function a lot slower and could even like try to force a reboot during the time that you're doing your litigation. And so it's really critical that you either update it a couple hours earlier or preferably even the day before, just to make sure that everything runs as smoothly as possible during the actual appearance of the litigant. Any questions so far? All right, so I'm going to toss it back over to Adal to just do a quick reminder again about doing the connection to court. And I think we already touched this about connecting through the Microsoft Edge to Google. But I wanted Adal to run through what the actual email looks like that you would get in Gmail, in the Gmail account. So this is one that is redacted.
Yes, so this is essentially the email that you would see once you click on the unread message on your Gmail. If I can have you go back to the slide before, a list will be provided of the site's Gmails and login information. We'll figure out a way to have that sent out to everyone as a confirmation so that we can make sure everyone has access to that as well. But generally speaking, the PIN is the same for each computer. So that's not something you need to worry about. Can I have you go one slide forward?
Yeah, and I'll just say it should automatically, Colby set it up to automatically log in, but sometimes if there's been an update to the application, it logs it out. And so that's why we'll make sure you have the login info just in case it got logged out.
Exactly, and that's similar to why I would prefer, if you don't necessarily see Microsoft Edge, I would say Chrome, and then after that, Internet Explorer, just because of the way that it's been working. And then also, if it does not directly go to the Gmail and log in, you can type in Google, and on the right-hand corner is where you would have the Gmail login. Also, many of the Gmails have corresponded to the primary contact on your sites, that's something that we're gonna make sure that it's directly goes as a recovery email for the primary contact as well. So that's something that will be really helpful in case you sign in and there's just any hiccups. But to go to what the appearance would look like as a Gmail link, this is exactly what it would look like with obviously the redacted information. But this is an important part to make note where when if you don't see the message is unread, possibly someone came in and they had clicked the message and made sure that it was seen of some sort, I would really highly recommend Googling the last name or searching in the bar, in the inbox bar, the last name first, because many of the sites, many of the appearances have your last name first and then your first name. But generally speaking, type in the litigant's last name as opposed to their first name.
In this particular email that I redacted, it lists Magnarelli, that's the judge. FF is the family file. So it had a number after that. And then it just had the two last names of the litigants. So at no point in this email was the first name even listed. So make sure you do indeed search by last name. And I'm going to advance the slide so you can see the second part of this email where you scroll down that's got the Teams connection.
So this is where we come into if there's internet connection problems or just problems with the computer, each site has been provided with a phone as well. So if you do need to dial in, this is a portion of scrolling down towards the Teams invite and making sure that you have the information as for the call in or audio only calls. And that's where you have the conference ID number. Make sure that you follow the instructions. They're very simple, similar to if you were calling a general support system. The prompts are, they're very accessible to say the least, but I just want to make sure that you scroll down in case calling the law library, like we don't have a number. The number is there, it's at the end of the Teams meeting. So you also have the options of making sure you can call in, even if the litigant just wants to call in. That's an option. I'm not sure if that's like a requirement on their end, but if they want to just call in and feel more comfortable calling in due to maybe personal reasons or ADA reasons, it's also an option as well. So you're not obligated to one or the other, you can choose. So this is generally speaking throughout the appearance. Please make sure you stay on site. Most of the times the litigants are having either their first experience with an appearance or having a lot of questions, generally as simple as, can I have a pen or a pencil to write down my next court appearance information? So with that being said, we would really highly recommend making sure that you stay near the location. And when they do even come into the site, make sure that you notify them of where the bathroom is as well, so that they are able to easily access it and hop right back into their appearance. Another point is making sure that any updates as you connect with the site, I'm assuming if you're not the primary contact or the secondary contact, you have someone at your site assisting that day, which is completely fine as well, that they also make note of any updates or any PPE materials or anything that we need to make note of in the appearance report, because that's essentially going to be sent over to the New York courts email. It either could be Paula or someone within insert name New York courts email that's sent out. So remain on site and make sure that you're accessible to both the contact and that of the litigant themselves. So this is a screenshot of what the appearance report would look like. And at the end, it's sent to Paula, but in the event that this changes is not specific to who it would be sent to, is more specific to what information that you need to provide. Simply the name of the litigant, if they appeared, and this is a great note, if they don't appear, which has been, as we understand, sometimes someone just doesn't show up, we do have a script on what to do if you need to hop onto the meeting and this is your first time in front of a judge or in a court matter as well. So we provided a script of some sort to ease the conversation of, hey, this person didn't, obviously don't start with hey, but hello, my name is this person, I'm at this site, this is the litigant, I've called them, I've also called the chambers or the courts, and last but not least, if you do have to explain what the program is, there's a snippet of what the program provides and what exactly we're doing, because not all judges know, although they have been informed in some way. Okay, that's fine. So if the computer doesn't work, this is again where you call in, but this is a matter of not just calling in, but also making sure to connect with the chambers as well. Because if you do have a hiccup with calling in, it'd be great in between realizing that the connection's not great to call Paula and give them a heads up, because they're the easiest contact as well. Because sometimes the chambers might be busy. We've had instances where we had a full day appearance, and that means there's a lot of other people on the queue, which I didn't mention before, but once you log in, you're in a queue as well. So the litigant might say, where's the judge? What's happening? Once they log in as Colby has stated, where they put in their name and all of the information and they click enter, you're now entered into the queue, meaning that you are going to wait to be appearing in front of the judge, or appearing in front of the judge to say that there's no one there. But nevertheless, there is a moment of time. And sometimes it's not just like 30 seconds. It could be about 4 or 15 minutes. It really ranges depending on the type of appearance that it is. But just know you're in good hands as long as you've entered the room and there are no connection problems. You're smooth sailing moving forward.
Great. And the only other point from this is that if you log in and your computer is just like not working, you're not being able to log in, when in doubt, always restart the computer and try logging back in. I know that that seems really simple, but it fixes 50% of problems, believe it or not. Sometimes there's just an update that's, wasn't installed and it's not going to work until it has been installed. So that's my little point about reboot and log back in.
I see Steph's hand raised.
Yes, go ahead, Steph.
Hey, so just to clarify, are you saying that, say that an individual has not shown up for their court case yet, do you still want us to log in, wait, and say the judge comes on queue, but the individual is not there? You want us to stay on that queue until the judge shows up?
Well, there's been 2 options. Sometimes I've had signed in fully already, and that now that they've seen that I've signed in, it's no more than to enter and say, I'm sorry, I signed in, but the litigant's not here. This is who I've contacted. But if you haven't signed into the teams as well, notifying that you have, I would highly recommend calling the law library and informing them as well. And then at the end, noting it in the appearance report. Because once it's all noted in the appearance report, you can also note that you did speak to the judge. I think the support of having the script will help, both from a phone call to also appearing physically on video.
Yeah, so we actually provide a list of all of the court chambers emails as well. So best practice is, if you have time to log in and let them know the litigant didn't show, they love that, because then they know immediately they can move on. If you don't have time to do that, which I certainly understand if you don't, then the next best thing is to email the court chambers and let them know the litigant didn't show, and also call the law librarian, which is the intake number for the virtual court access, and let them know that the litigant didn't show. And I say call the law librarian because they should have somebody answering the phone and they can do the follow-up. So you're not having to make calls all day. You can just call them, they'll take care of it, and then they'll know it needs to get rescheduled. Colette, I see your hand.
So I have known that some judges may recall the case. So would we stay connected, or do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Yeah.
If it's like an eviction matter where they call at 9:30 and then they do a recall at like 10:30 or 11, then you don't have to do anything. You can just wait and see if the litigant doesn't show. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
You could email and let them know they haven't shown yet,
Okay.
But like with family matters, if they schedule you for 9:30, they'll give you a window of time, but at a certain point, they just move on. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just say at 9:30, they might have 2 cases scheduled, and 10, they have 2 cases, and 10:30, they have another 2. And at a certain point, if you log in, if the litigant gets there an hour late, still log them in, because then they'll get to them when they can, but or they'll at least let them know what happened. Because if all the attorneys are there and the litigant isn't there, the court's probably still going to call the case.
Right,
Does that
you're
make
right.
sense?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, if the litigant shows and they're just really late, I would still connect them and then the court can decide if they want to try to talk to them. But if not, like you're not expected to sit there all day, right?
Okay.
If I can also add that sometimes at the end of an appearance, the litigant has shown, and I've already notified everyone, and then they end up showing maybe 5 minutes after I've notified the chambers and sent the report. I think this is a great time to also call the law library, because they're well aware that the appearance is happening, as they're the intake team, is just to notify them that, hey, the litigant actually showed up, just to pass over the information, because that little bit of gap of time could be a miscommunication of I showed up, nobody was there, where actually there's been a note that all the processes that we've set up have already been taken care of.
Then we're just trying to troubleshoot other issues that might happen. Maybe you have to close your site due to COVID or due to weather. You should ideally call the intake line as soon as possible so that the scheduler can find a different location. We've had to do that before in the past, and worst case scenario, they can always schedule it for a site at the court. Even if it's a virtual appearance, they can appear virtually at court, which seems a little strange, but is something that they've done in some cases. There is what if the person that was planning to help assist with the connecting the litigant isn't able to be there themselves, maybe they were out sick. If at all possible, try to find somebody else at your site who can help connect people. Really, we're counting on you to do that. And then if you're out of supplies of any kind, say paper, pens, tissues, masks, whatever, if you have the resources on site, we welcome you to replenish them. If it's not possible, then please contact the law librarian, Paula Ennis, who can work on getting that set up. And we already went over this at the end. Log out of the computer and log back in. Do this between each. So if you have 2 litigants scheduled in one day, a couple hours apart, make sure you log out in between, because it wipes out everything that was remembered in the computer. So if you would put in the litigant's name, you need to log out so that litigant's name doesn't appear when you're logging in under the next litigant. And then of course, wipe down the workstation with cleaning solution. That way, we do provide that, and that way it can make sure that everyone has a safe experience. So any other questions? Wonderful. So Adal referenced things that we will provide, and I referenced things that we will provide. We do have a manual that we've created that gives you a step-by-step guide of all of these things. We have just updated that, and so we will be sending you that via email so that you can print it off and pop it in your binder as an updated version of the guide. And if you do have any questions, you can reach out to us, or you can reach out to the law librarian to answer those questions. Volunteer Lawyers Project will continue being available for questions through the 3rd week of April. We're only going in person to the sites through the end of this week. After that, we'll be available for technical support for another month. And then beyond that, it's really going to be going to the law librarian, the intake line, to answer your questions, okay? Wonderful. Thank you for joining us today. Oh, Colin, did you have another question?
No, I was saying thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you all so much for your participation. This project's not possible without the sites who have agreed to take on this commitment. And so I just want to really say how deeply grateful we are to you for your commitment. And if there's anything that can be done to make this experience work more smoothly for us, for you, please let us know, because we're really committed to making that happen. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Sally.
All right. Take care, everyone.